Hello YouTube, this is Blenderman Tutorials here with another game design tutorial, and today we are going to talk about a lot of things involving Unity, and we're actually going to start making our game. How exciting is that? Now, first off, we're going to import our assets into our project. Then we're going to get into the terrain stuff. It's like the ground and grass texture stuff. Then we're gonna get into level design and level assets, which we're gonna mess around with in Blender. Then we're gonna get into texturing in CrazyBump so that we can actually import our textures into Blender and mess with that so that it looks cool and stuff. And then we're gonna get the textures from CrazyBump into Unity so that Unity can actually use them with our game assets. So first we're gonna go up to our tab up here and we're gonna go to Assets and Import Package. Now the packages that come with Unity standard, I talked about them a little bit last tutorial. Basically they're made by the developers at Unity and they're made to help us so that we have the option of doing less work. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Assets, Import Package, and we're going to import the Character Controller package. Now the Character Controller package is basically your character and all the scripts involved in making it move around and jump and stuff. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to import this. And it says compiling all the assets and all the scripts. And there in our standard assets, so we first went into assets, now it goes to standard assets, and now we see this folder called character controllers. It's kind of cut off there. So here you have two types, one's third person and one's first person. Now, this tutorial series, I'm going to go with the first person just because it's easier and you don't run into objects. The camera doesn't run into objects as often as a third person. Just the first person experience is cooler in my opinion. So what you're going to want to do before you put your character controller into the game, you're going to want to click on your main camera. I labeled it tutorials in the last video just to help you guys see what to do. You want to delete that because the first person character controller actually comes with a main camera that has all the scripts enabled. And it's a lot easier for us to use. So what you want to do is you want to just grab this. And you see it gets into our scene right there. Now that's pretty cool if you ask me. Now, once you have that, you see all these scripts. It says JS, and that means it's a JavaScript. And you want to just, close all these. And you want to open up transform. So that's where our object actually is. So what you want to do is you want to type 0, 0, 0. That'll put it dead center at the very origin of our game. And the plane will be at the origin of the game too, so to make it so that the character controller does not collide with our plane, we want to put it just a little bit higher than the plane, which will be 1.1. or 0, 1. I go with 1 just because it's easier for the computer to round off. Now once you do that, you're basically set up with the character controller. Now we have that. You're going to want to also import the another asset called skyboxes. And what this is just Unity gave us a bunch of materials for the sky in the game so that when you look around it's not just blue. So it's importing these right now. If I go to skyboxes, you see all these different skybox textures. And what you want to do to actually put this into the game is first you want to go into main camera right there. or actually game mode, game view, and you want to go into what's it, edit and render settings, and right here it says skybox material. All of these different materials are good in their own ways. I'm just gonna use the Starry Night one just because it looks kind of cool for the game I want to create. And once you have that ready, now we're gonna get into our terrain, and this is always changeable. It's not like a definite thing. So the terrain, the terrain is I think it's an asset in here, isn't it? Yeah, the terrain asset. But we're not gonna want to do that. We're gonna go to game object and create other. And when we create the other, we're gonna want it to be a terrain. Now, as you see, it's like at the corner, so that this part is at 0, and we don't want that. Or at least I don't want that, because I'm a clean freak and I want it at this part at the very middle. So I'm just gonna do the orientation at 1000, just so you, or it's negative 1000, just so you can see how massive this terrain is. 1 unit in this is equivalent to a meter, so that's like 1,000 meters. So there, now we have it at the very center with our character controller. Now if we play this, we see we're kind of moving around, but when I move around, I'm just using the WASD keys and jumping and stuff like that, but there's nothing to interact with it. So next I'm gonna get into Blender. Or actually, first I'm gonna get an area light just so we can see what we're seeing, what we're trying to look at. So just go to game object, create other, and directional light. Yeah, directional light, because area lights are only for Unity Pro. So we're gonna put this 1,000 meters up. This is my settings, just because. This is what I want it to look like, just so we can see what we're walking on. And yeah, I'm gonna jump into Blender right now. So I'm gonna save my scene, and then I'm just gonna open my Blender program, and it opens up with this. Last tutorial, check it out. I'll have it in the description. It was very helpful if you kind of want to know the basics of Blender. I'm going to get more in-depth in the modeling tools this section, but the rest of the stuff, it's kind of like Unity. It's actually a game engine in itself. It's a bunch of things like editing software and stuff like that. But for now, I'm going to use it as a modeling program, just because you can't really export it as a game. And yeah, so the first thing you want to do is, it comes with this default cube. What I want is kind of like a rock that we're going to texture, and this is just for the level design. You can design whatever you want. I'm going to design a rock just because that seems kind of like, I'm looking for like a moon-based type thing that's in outer space. It's just a sci-fi game for my first person. And Blender has this amazing features that I can use to help me create this. So first, before I create this rock, I'm going to talk to you a little about level design. Basically, what level design is just designing your game level. And games have different amounts of levels, depending on what type of game it is. Now, for level design, it can be hard thinking of new and original ideas, just because so many ideas are already created. So don't beat yourself up if you cannot find like if you can't think of something on the spot. I've had this idea in my head for a while, so that's where I'm getting this from. Now, what you're going to want to do to create this rock is you're going to want to hit, let me turn screencast keys on. You're going to want to hit, Tab to get into edit mode. Then you're going to want to hit A to deselect everything, A to select everything. I'm just repeating myself here. You don't want anything selected, so now, why is it doing this? Okay. Now you want to right click on this vertice and this vertice. And I'm just going to bring these down a little. Now I'm going to bring this one down, but not as far down. I'm going to just create this rock-like substance. I'm going to subdivide, not that, but I'm going to subdivide this so that it has more vertices to play around with. Now that I have that, I'm just gonna make this, I'm just gonna move this around, just maybe make it more rock-like. And finally, I'm just gonna move that down, move this. Why did I do that? We just want it to look organic and natural. And a good way to do that is just the way I'm doing. Just because it's easier. If you're a beginner, this is a very easy way to do things within Blender. You just want to make it as round as possible, but as random as possible also. Wow, I just lost my breath there. Also. And the editing process can actually take a long time other than texturing. So, yeah, I think this is a pretty good looking rock. Now, this looks terrible right now because there's only like, what is it, 26 vertices. That's like nothing. There are only 24 faces, and that 24 faces, so that's not very much. So what you want to do is you want to make it more like rounded off, and a good way I found to do this is to go into your modifiers tab, which is this wrench right here, add a modifier and a subdivision to the surface. And why is it not doing this? Okay, I think it's lagging because of QuickTime. I'm just gonna increase the mean crease so it's less subdivision. The subdivisions are more clean cut, not as smooth, so it kind of has that rocky shape. That's pretty good, I think, so far, for starting out anyway. Yeah, I think that's pretty good right now. You don't want too many vertices because you don't want Unity to think very hard. You want it to have as little amount of vertices with good quality definition. So for now, this is good. I'm just going to apply the modifier, but you have to be out of edit mode. So tab, back into edit mode. That's pretty good right there. Now, what you want to do is you want to texture it, and texturing can be hard because seamless textures are very hard to repeat over and over again when it's a rounded off object like this. So what you want to do before we UV unwrap this, which is basically like giving it a normal texture, or not a normal texture, but outlining it so that you can wrap a texture around it in Unity. I'm just selecting some of these vertices, all the edge vertices, and I'm going to make this an edge, a mark for the UV wrap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to unwrap, and I'm going to do mark a seam. This way, Unity can, or not Unity, but Blender can kind of see which parts are different in the texture. So when making your whatever, if it's like this and it's very rounded and it's not going to be easily UV unwrapped, what you want to do is you want to get a definite bottom so that you can texture around the top and it will look better, and then the bottom will look messier, but that's okay because it's the bottom. Now, a way I found to help me do this is just select these vertices using the C tool and just press X and delete the vertices. And then I'm gonna just scale this down on the Z by 0, just so that we have this rock right here. And the bottom is not textured. Now we have a better looking, not better looking per se, but more easier to texture. So now you're gonna want to get a texture. You know what, I'm gonna stop the video here and I'm gonna find a texture. Okay, YouTube, I'm back, and I have found 2 rock textures right here and right here. They have to be seamless. I just want to give you a heads up on that. And first of all, we're going to go back into Blender, and you see our rock here. We're going to, I'm going to go into the Materials tab, and if there's no material there, just click New Material. It'll be there. I want to name this Rock Texture, just because. Then I'm going to go into the Textures tab, and this is very important. You're going to go New, and then Image or Movie, and you're going to select your image from wherever. I'm going to select that one, this one right there, and you see if I rendered this right now, it looks okay, but it doesn't look really real. So what you want to do is you want to turn this from generated to UV. That'll solve part of the problem, but that's not all. We also didn't UV unwrap this, and we need to do that for it to give you a good and thorough look to it. So you're gonna open up your rock texture in your UV image editor. It's just right there, and you're gonna go to click this one, find your image in your recents, and you're gonna click tab on this, and you're gonna hit A to select everything, and then you're going to go U and unwrap. Now if I go into texture mode, this is what it looks like. That's you see it's got that crease. You can see the crease, and that's not what you want. So I'm going to take my word back, and I realize now that why is it doing this? That these creases right here, you don't want. I am just realizing this because I'm a retard. And there we go. That should be all of them. I'm just going to clear seam. That's just if you don't want the seam. Now you know how to clear it. Just testing you. Now if you just hit unwrap, let me think. How good does that look? It looks okay. We're gonna change the shading to smooth so that it looks just a little bit better. That's okay in it of itself. you can mess with the UV unwrapping. I think this looks fine right here. Yeah, that looks fine. So in the UV unwrapping, you're going to go to UV map just so that it knows what to UV unwrap it from. And if I render the image right now, it looks okay. I'm good with this. But now we're going to want to set up that CrazyBump texture. And to do that, we're just going to go into CrazyBump. You open CrazyBump. I'm going to move my screen recording thing out of the way. And I'm going to do open. I'm going to open photograph from file. I'm going to do the image and I'm going to open it. Puny humans are instructed to wait. Now I'm just going to do that. No, that's not the one I want. I want it the other one. Okay, I know how to fix this. Just reverse the negative. Reverse the normal map so that it looks like that. I'm gonna sharpen it. I'm just gonna go through these settings. I want the larger detail, the medium detail, and the fine details, but I want very large details, more noticeable. Diffuse color, diffuse. No. Oh, I guess this was what I wanted. Anyway, if I look at this, this is looking pretty good. If I bump the intensity up way up there, it's gonna look really good. It's gonna look really high definition, and that's the reaction you want to get in your games. So I'm happy with this normal texture. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna save, and I save normals to file. I'm going to save it to the desktop. I'm just going to save that. Saves it right there. Then I'm going to go back into Blender. Actually, I'm going to close CrazyBump. Another tip is when you aren't using a program, you should either quit it, or if it's really necessary, save it, because your computer can crash, and quitting it, the unnecessary programs will be a lot of help later on. So now I'm back in my textures. I'm going to click on this new texture. I'm going to add a new texture. I'm going to make this an image or movie. And I'm going to make the image or movie the normal texture of that. Just so we can see what we're dealing with here. What you want to do is you want to go to UV. You want to just do the same settings, except you want to uncheck color, and you want to check geometry. So now you see the geometry is forming right there. Then you want to check normal map, and then it'll form the geometry around the normal map. And what you want to do is you want to enable GLSL shading. This way you can see the high definition of your high definition textures. Now that you have done that, you can just lower the geometry down. Now that your geometry is lowered down, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm a nerd. Now that your geometry is lowered down, yeah, that's looking good. That's looking very good. Now you want to scale it up. I'm just going to do that so that I get more definition for my awesomeness textures. I'm gonna UVs out. Okay, sorry about the silence there. I was just thinking into my head. Now that I've done that, I am going to do this and this and this. I'm just going to start editing this just a little bit more, just to make it a little bit finer. The lag on this. Okay, I think this is very good. So now you're like, Hey, Blender man, what do we do now? We have it in Blender, so how do we get it into Unity? Well, I'm going to tell you it's very easy, and all you have to do is save it somewhere you know it's going to, where it is so that you can open it back up in Unity. So I'm just going to save this, and look at that high definition. That's pretty awesome what you can do with a normal map. That's pretty sweet. Now that it's saved, I can quit Blender because it is not necessary. I'm going to go back into Unity, and I'm going to import a new asset. So what you want to do is you want to click on your standard assets folder, and you want to go to your assets and import new asset. Now, this will import a new asset from wherever you tell it to import it. So you have to know, first off, where your thing is. Rock, right here. And I'm going to import that asset. Import the asset, the rock. And you see the cube, the default tag, and the rock avatar. And then the materials, you have the material of that. We're going to get into the materials later on, but first off, we're going to get into our standard assets. And we see that rock, and that rock is looking pretty sweet. So what you want to do is you want to just put it right on into your Unity3D game engine, and you want to just make it a little bit lower, just so that you can see that rock right there. And now that you have done that, you want to import your asset into the materials folder. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to import a new asset, and you're going to want to import that normal map and that's the regular map from your folder. Now once I have those two, I'm going to go on this texture that goes onto the rock. I'm going to hit it from diffuse to bumped specular. Now, before you do this, you want to click on your normal map, and you want to hit it as a normal map. This will uncheck create from grayscale and apply this. This way, it goes on. Unity has some trouble with this. It doesn't recognize that it's a normal map, and it tries to create an actual normal map from it. So then you just click your regular texture onto the front. And then you're going to put your normal texture right there. So now you see the UV unwrapping actually makes it so that it knows where to put the textures. So now if I play this, I can look around and I see, oh my gosh, it's a high textured rock. This rock is pretty sweet. But, you know, you can walk right through it, and that's not what you want. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to just exit out of your game. You're going to click on that rock, and you're going to go into mesh, animator. What you're going to want to do, you're going to add a component. You're going to want to add a physics. Yeah, physics, and you're going to want to add a box collider. You're going to add that box collider, and it's going to be awesome. Now, the box collider, you're going to want to scale it down so that it is... Actually, no, the box collider is right directly at that center. So it's actually pretty good. Now you can interact with the rock, but... yeah, for the most part, that's pretty good. If you want to get into higher definition detail, you could mess with those settings. But for now, this is going to be pretty good. I'm going to call the episode right there. This was a pretty sweet episode. If you like this episode, I would really recommend you liking this episode with the like button that you will click. And if you want to see more content from Blenderman tutorials, I would recommend subscribing because it helps me and it helps you learn about Blender and Unity and CrazyBump right now. And later I'll do Blender tutorials. Please comment on these videos and tell me what you want to see in future tutorials. Maybe a question you have I can answer. And I will leave it at that. Bye.